In recent years, archaeology has undergone a true revolution. What was considered legend yesterday is now becoming reality. Beneath layers of sand, ice, and ocean water, traces of ancient cities, engineering marvels, and civilizations whose existence cannot be explained within the confines of known eras are being revealed. Every new excavation, every discovered artifact, shatters the conventional chronology and makes us question whether we truly know our past. Because the deeper science delves into history, the more questions arise, and perhaps the most shocking answers are only just beginning to emerge. Today we'll tell you about recently solved mysteries that change everything. Even long familiar secrets will be revealed in a new light. Underground city under the pyramid of Teotihuacan. Beneath the ancient city of Teotihuacan, 70 kilometers from Mexico City, archaeologists have spent decades searching for answers to the question of who exactly built this place, whose hands created the Pyramid of the Sun, and why one of the most powerful civilizations in the Americas disappeared without even leaving a name. For a long time, it was believed that beneath the giant stone steps lay nothing but voids carved by time. But in recent years, the situation has changed. Modern technology has allowed scientists to peer underground in ways no one had before, and what they saw has forced them to rethink everything we knew about the history of this place. In early 2011, a team of Mexican archaeologists led by Sergio Gomez installed a sophisticated ground-penetrating radar system at the base of the pyramid. The goal was simple: to determine whether the Pyramid of the Sun truly contained hidden chambers, as local legends claimed. The first images showed faint shadows and irregularities underground, but no one expected to see the clear outlines of tunnels extending almost 20 meters deep. Inside were smooth corridors, the walls of which were covered with a layer of a shiny mineral, mica, reflecting the light from the lanterns as if someone had deliberately created the effect of a starry sky. Descending there for the first time, researchers discovered a complex system of passages, rooms, and halls carved with astonishing precision. The floors were perfectly level, the angles geometrically precise, and the ceilings appeared to have been smoothed by the hands of artisans mastering a technology that even today raises questions. Among the objects found were jade masks, obsidian knives, gold amulets, and hundreds of tiny bowls of pyrite and clay. When illuminated with ultraviolet light, the sphere's surfaces sparkled as if coated with a metallic coating. Scientists still don't understand why these spheres were created, but everything points to them having ritual or energetic significance. In one of the halls, archaeologists found traces of liquid mercury, a substance extremely rare for that time and dangerous even today. This reflective and fluid metal could have symbolized an underground river dividing the world of the living and the dead. The Teotihuacans likely believed that it was here, beneath the pyramid, that the soul's journey to the other world began. Later soil analysis revealed that the mercury concentration was too high to be accidental. It was deliberately poured there, creating the effect of movement and glow in the darkness. The most mysterious discovery occurred in 2022, when using a new LiDAR radar and magnetometry, scientists discovered an underground chamber measuring almost 150 square meters, hidden at a depth of over 30 meters. There, they recorded evidence of massive metal objects arranged symmetrically, as if on a map. Some researchers have suggested that this may be an ancient model of the city itself, constructed for ritual purposes or for celestial navigation. Others believe the underground system was created not for rituals, but for the storage of knowledge, a kind of archive, hidden from a catastrophe that the ancient priests could have foreseen in advance. When cameras were installed in the tunnels, it became apparent that the walls were covered in places with crystalline formations resembling glass. A hypothesis arose that the stone had been melted by high temperatures, as if someone had harnessed the energy capable of melting basalt. This idea is not supported by official archaeology, but images of melted walls still spark heated debate. If they were indeed heated, then by whom and why? New research has shown that the tunnels beneath Teotihuacan form a perfect axis, aligned with the position of the star Sirius during the summer solstice. This means that the builders possessed not only engineering knowledge but also astronomical skills superior to those of other known cultures of the era. Even the modern city map is aligned with this same axis. Streets, pyramids, and plazas form a unified cosmic plan, as if designed to connect with the heavens. Today, some of the underground passages are still closed to the public. Scientists admit that only a small part of this underground city has been explored. No one knows what lies deeper: new halls, tombs, or something the ancient inhabitants deliberately concealed from future generations. Teotihuacan remains a mystery a city that lived its own life long before the Aztecs arrived and vanished without even leaving a name for its people. And perhaps the answer to the question of who they were lies beneath those very layers of earth where the ancient builders carved out shining holes, hoping that one day someone would rediscover them and understand why they did it. Secrets beneath the Temple of Luxor. On the western bank of the Nile, where the sunset's glow bathes the ancient colonnades in a warm golden light, stands the Temple of Luxor, the heart of ancient Thebes, a city dedicated to the god Amun, the place where, according to Egyptian belief, the breath of life began. Here, between the columns and obelisks, it seemed there were no more secrets. The temple was studied by hundreds of expeditions, every meter photographed, measured, and recorded. But in the fall of 2024, archaeologists encountered something even the most daring explorers hadn't expected. Beneath the temple, in the stone foundation, LIDAR recorded what appeared to be a series of chambers and tunnels extending underground to a depth of over 20 meters. It all began with a digital scanning project designed to create a 3D model of the entire complex. The area beneath the colonnade was thought to be entirely solid granite, but when the scanners detected signals from voids, scientists decided to conduct a magnetic survey. The results were astonishing. Beneath the Luxor temple, there were indeed cavities, regularly shaped, with right angles and smooth vaults. It was as if someone had built a second mirrored building beneath the sanctuary, hidden from human view. Accessing the discovered chambers required several months of careful excavation. When the first tunnel was uncovered, the air was thick with the scent of ancient dust, mixed with the aroma of incense. The light from the lanterns revealed fragments of paintings preserved in surprisingly vivid detail, figures of gods, scenes of offerings, and strange symbols not found in any known hieroglyphic catalog. Analysis revealed that the pigments were made not from familiar minerals, but from rare copper and lead compounds not used in Egypt at the time. Archaeologists noticed a repeating symbol on the walls, two intersecting lines, forming the shape of a key or antenna. It was repeated on the ceiling and around niches where statues may have once stood. Some researchers have suggested that the underground space served not as a temple, but as a kind of resonator chamber, amplifying sounds or vibrations. This would also explain the unusual acoustic properties. The slightest whisper caused the air to vibrate, creating a low hum, as if emanating from the earth itself. In one of the rooms, a stone slab with indentations was discovered. Judging by the remains, these indentations once held vessels made of electrum, an alloy of gold and silver. A layer of dark substance remained inside one bowl, which, under a microscope, turned out to be the ashes of plants extinct for thousands of years. These may have been the remains of ritual oils used in rites, whose meaning has long been lost. On the opposite wall, scientists discovered a relief depicting a priest holding a vessel over a source of light emanating from the earth. The main discovery awaited deeper. In the last chamber, reached at the end of the year, stood a sarcophagus, roughly carved from basalt but without a single inscription. When the lid was carefully lifted, there was no body inside, only stone fragments arranged in an infinity symbol. Beneath the bottom of the sarcophagus was a channel lined with smooth limestone slabs leading down toward the river. It was too narrow for a human, but perfectly polished, as if designed to channel something immaterial: water, light, or sound. Some Egyptologists have suggested that they are witnessing an ancient system of underground corridors connecting the temple to the Nile, but more daring theories suggest otherwise. Perhaps this was a sacred laboratory, a place where priests studied the properties of vibrations, electricity, and light long before the advent of science. Archaeologists have found traces of a strange substance on the tunnel walls, similar to silver oxide, which can glow at certain humidity levels. If true, the Luxor temple may have been more than just a place of worship, but a tool for interacting with the energy emanating from the earth. The most astonishing discovery was made by physicists involved in the project in early 2025. They installed sensors and recorded weak electromagnetic fluctuations emanating directly from the lower chamber. The signals repeated every 48 hours for no apparent reason, and disappeared as suddenly as they appeared. These may simply be natural phenomena, but scientists haven't ruled out the possibility that deep within Luxor lies an ancient geomagnetic structure, created by people who understood the interactions between stone, sound, and light. Today, access to these underground chambers is once again closed. Egyptian authorities have declared them an archaeological zone of high significance and prohibited the publication of details until the research is complete. But rumors, as always, outpace official reports. Photographs are appearing online showing fragments of walls with incomprehensible symbols and a glow in the dark. Some believe the discovered system is part of a much larger network extending beneath the entire Karnak and Luxor complexes. If this is true, we are on the verge of a discovery that could completely change our understanding of ancient Egyptian technology. For what for centuries seemed like a myth about the power of the gods may have been a reflection of knowledge lost long before the first pharaohs. An ancient road under the ocean off the coast of India. Off the southeastern coast of India, where the Bay of Bengal meets the Indian Ocean, waves sometimes retreat so far that smooth lines extending into the depths become visible on the seabed. Local fishermen have long told tales of a stone road that appears every few years when the sea suddenly retreats before a storm. For a long time, this was considered a legend, part of the myth of a sunken city where the gods supposedly lived. But in the spring of 2023, researchers from the Indian Institute of Oceanography published the results of a new underwater scan. And the story, once considered fiction, suddenly took on a frighteningly realistic form. At a depth of 27 meters, they discovered a structure resembling a paved highway, laid out with perfectly fitted stone slabs. Each slab was of uniform thickness and smoothly cut, as if machine cut. The road stretched for over 5 kilometers, extending from Cape Mahabalipuram toward the open sea, ending at the point where a steep underwater cliff begins. Geologists estimate that the road may have been part of an ancient shoreline that sank about 10,000 years ago, at a time when sea levels were significantly lower. But that wasn't the strangest part. Instruments detected traces of symmetrical platforms on both sides of the road, constructed of the same type of stone, basalt mixed with quartz. Some of them were covered with a thick layer of coral, yet their shape remained geometrically perfect. When one sample was recovered and spectral analysis was performed, it was discovered that the stone had been heated at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. This is inexplicable for an era that, according to sediment dating, is at least 12,000 years old. Fragments of carved columns and foundations resembling the foundations of ancient buildings were found at the bottom. Several fragments had strange holes, perfectly round, as if drilled. One of the archaeologists, Professor Rajiv Narayan, called this site an engineering marvel that has no place in the known chronology of humanity. According to him, if these structures were indeed man-made, their builders possessed technologies superior to anything known before the Indus Valley civilization. Local legends speak of a city called Mahabalipuram before the flood, the city of 7 temples. Of these, according to legend, 6 were swallowed by the sea, and 1 remained on the shore as a reminder of the lost land. As early as 1935, the British archaeologist Richard Mason recorded stories from elders about stone spires and lion statues rising from the water after a strong ebb. He didn't have time to confirm these words. A storm soon arose, and the site disappeared beneath the waves again. Now, however, modern LiDAR and underwater drone data have confirmed that the outlines of 7 domed structures, arranged in a row like a temple complex, are indeed visible on the seabed. But the road's mystery extends beyond its architecture. In one of the underwater pits, researchers found a layer of ash and charred debris, indicating a massive fire. Geochemical analysis revealed high carbon and silicon content, consistent with the effects of a blast wave or meteorite impact. This aligns with the hypothesis of a global cataclysm approximately 12,000 years ago, when rapid melting of glaciers and a series of underwater earthquakes caused ocean levels to rise by almost 120 meters. Perhaps it was then that this coastline was swallowed by the sea, and with it, the civilization that had managed to build the road, now hidden underwater, disappeared. However, there is another theory. Scientists from the Institute of Ancient Civilizations in Madras believe the road may not have been a transport route, but rather an energy channel leading to a temple located on an island, now completely submerged. This theory is supported by an unusual property of the stone. When in contact with water, it creates a weak electromagnetic field, which has been confirmed by seabed measurements. Perhaps the ancients knew how to use minerals and sea salt to create a stable energy flow, knowledge that disappeared along with their culture. Today, this discovery remains under the protection of the Indian government. Divers and private researchers are prohibited from entering the Mahabalipuram area without permission. But even official reports acknowledge that the road's age and purpose cannot yet be precisely determined. Some scholars cautiously call it India's oldest architectural structure, while others call it a bridge to a forgotten world. When the water is calm, the dark outlines of the slabs can be seen from the cliffs, gleaming in the depths. Fishermen passing by still doff their hats and whisper ancient prayers, as if before a living creature. For them, this road is more than just traces of stone beneath the ocean, but a memory of a time when land and sea knew no boundaries, and man knew how to build roads leading not only to other cities, but also to the stars. Caves under Giza and their connection with Atlantis. On the western outskirts of Cairo, amid the sands where the Giza pyramids cast their shadows on the stone, lies something that official archaeology prefers to speak about cautiously. It's a network of underground passages that, according to legend, extend for kilometers beneath the plateau, connecting the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Temple of the Sphinx, and the ancient city of Memphis. The Egyptians knew about these tunnels for centuries, but considered them both sacred and dangerous. For a long time, stories of an underground world beneath Giza were considered myth, until recent geoscanning data confirmed what the ancients had been saying for thousands of years. There are indeed voids beneath the pyramid, and they are much larger than anyone had imagined. It all began in 2017, when an international team from the Scan Pyramids project used muon scanning, a technology that records the density of stone and reveals hidden cavities. In the Great Pyramid of Giza, they discovered a massive chamber, over 30 meters long, located above the Grand Gallery. This discovery shocked the scientific world at the time, but few paid attention to the anomalies found deeper, under the base. It was there that instruments revealed a network of voids extending underground. This data remained unpublished for a long time, but in 2024, Egyptian archaeologists finally confirmed that a system of natural and artificial caves, connected by ancient tunnels, existed beneath Giza. The first examination of one of these cavities revealed that the cave walls were covered with a thin layer of limestone, as if someone had once deliberately reinforced them, creating sturdy corridors. In one of the halls, the remains of ancient torches and carved stone slabs resembling an altar were found. Archaeologists speculated that these may have been underground temples, off-limits to ordinary people. However, traces of time revealed that someone had used these spaces much earlier than the Egyptians, possibly long before the rise of the first dynasties. The finds included fragments of pottery and bronze amulets unlike any known artifact from the Old Kingdom. Their chemical composition indicated alloys that did not exist at the time. Reports indicate that one sample contained an unusual admixture of rare earth metals, found only in the granites of southern Egypt, but processed as if the material had been melted at temperatures unattainable in ancient furnaces. This has sparked a wave of speculation as to whether the Giza underground complex is the legacy of a much more ancient civilization, whose knowledge later became the foundation of Egyptian culture. Herodotus wrote of secret chambers beneath the pyramid, where ancient texts and records of the gods were kept. And in the 20th century, English explorer Andrew Collins discovered an ancient passageway buried in sand at the foot of the Sphinx. Inside, a network of corridors led deep into the plateau. He claimed to have seen a hall with enormous sarcophagi without inscriptions, and a floor paved with basalt that glistened like a mirror. Egyptian authorities closed access at the time, citing the risk of collapse. But satellite images taken later revealed that there are indeed rectangular cavities beneath the Sphinx, apparently hidden chambers. At the turn of 2023 to 24, geophysicists from the University of Tokyo conducted a new study. LIDAR and thermal sensors detected thermal anomalies beneath the pyramid's base, areas where the temperature was several degrees higher than the surrounding stone. This could indicate voids or the presence of metallic structures, but the strangest thing was the geometry. The tunnels beneath the pyramid form a perfect spiral, extending into the depths, as if aligned with some mathematical principle. This spiral matches the proportions of the so-called golden section, a common feature in pyramid architecture, and according to researchers, symbolizing the harmony of the universe. If this is not a coincidence, then the builders were knowledgeable not only in geometry but also in cosmic mathematics. Many recalled Atlantis, mentioned by Plato, where the temples of the gods stood in rings descending toward the center. The coincidence between the shape of the underground holes and the philosopher's descriptions was so precise that theories about a connection between Giza and the legendary sunken continent have once again returned to scholarly debate. Some researchers, including Dr. Abdel Kamal, believe the cave system may have served as an archive, the Atlantean Chronicles. He argues that ancient priests may have hidden texts here recounting the demise of a previous civilization. Rumors of a hall of records beneath the Sphinx have been circulating for decades, but now they have geological confirmation. Ultrasound mapping has indeed revealed a rectangular space approximately 9 meters long beneath the Sphinx's paw. Too perfect to be natural. While Egyptian authorities refused to disclose the drilling results, limiting themselves to the statement "work continues," independent researchers claim that one of the chambers has detected metallic reflections uncharacteristic of limestone. This has given rise to bold speculation. Perhaps artifacts made of corrosion-resistant metal are hidden beneath Giza. If true, humanity could be on the verge of a discovery that will connect the myth of Atlantis with the real history of Egypt. Today, most of the underground passages have been filled with sand and sealed off. But those who have once descended there tell of strange sounds, a cold wind emanating from the depths, and lights appearing on the walls, even though there's no source of light. Perhaps this is just a figment of the imagination. But as one Egyptian archaeologist said, standing at the entrance to a hidden tunnel beneath Giza, sometimes myths turn out to be just memories of a truth humanity has simply forgotten. Voynich manuscript. Of all the mysteries left to humanity, none has generated as much controversy and fascination as the Voynich manuscript. Discovered in the early 20th century in an ancient Italian monastery, this book was long considered an unsolved mystery. Its pages, written in an unknown alphabet, are filled with images of stars, plants, tubular mechanisms, and women immersed in a green liquid. Thousands of linguists, cryptographers, mathematicians, and even military codebreakers tried to figure out whether this was a message from the past or a carefully planned hoax. But last year, the situation changed. A new text analysis technique developed by a group of Canadian researchers allowed us to look at the manuscript from a new perspective for the first time. And the results were so unexpected that they overturned our previous understanding of its meaning. Professor Edward Levine's team at the University of Toronto used a hybrid neural network trained on ancient languages, from Latin and Old English to Middle Persian and Coptic. The algorithm compared the frequencies of repeated symbols with the grammatical structures of extinct languages and looked for statistical matches. After several weeks of processing, the system produced a result that was initially considered an error. More than 20% of the words in the text matched in structure and meaning, a combination of Old Prussian and Old Czech, languages long since disappeared from the map of Europe. When the researchers translated several phrases, the meaning astounded even their most skeptical colleagues. The first deciphered page began with the words, "The blood of the earth brings light to the seed." It continued with descriptions reminiscent of alchemical formulas and astronomical calculations. Another page mentioned a water vessel that collects the breath of heaven, presumably a device for collecting condensate or energy. The more deeply scholars delved into the translated lines, the clearer it became. This was not a book about herbs or potions, as previously thought. Rather, it was most likely a collection of observations and experiments related to natural cycles and the interaction of the elements. Particular attention was drawn to the illustrations depicting women placed in vessels with streams of liquid. Until 2024, these images were interpreted as symbolic representations of birth or purification. But when the university conducted infrared scanning of the pages, it was discovered that another layer was hidden beneath the main drawings, lines reminiscent of technical diagrams. They showed images of pipes, valves, and spherical chambers connected in a system. Professor Levin stated that this could be a description of a device that converts water and sunlight into energy, something like an early prototype of a thermochemical generator. The most shocking discovery came when the team discovered a match between diagrams on one page and drawings from a 13th century Arabic manuscript called the Book of the Splendor of the Stars, previously found in Cairo. In both cases, the figures indicated the motion of the planets relative to a specific star, Sirius. The similarity in the structure and proportions of the orbits was too precise to be coincidental. This led to the suggestion that the author of the Voynich manuscript may have been connected to Eastern astronomers or possessed knowledge transmitted through the secret alchemical schools active in Europe in the 15th century. Some researchers have gone further and hypothesized that the text is the result of an attempt to encrypt knowledge about natural energy sources, dangerous to the ignorant society of the time. This theory is supported by a chemical analysis of the ink conducted in London. It contained traces of phosphorus and silver, elements that could have been used to create a faint glow on the pages in the dark. Why? Perhaps so. The book itself would emit light, reminding the initiated that knowledge is a fire accessible only to those who can read between the lines. But the more the text was deciphered, the more mysterious the book's origins became. In the margins of some pages, researchers found microscopic symbols resembling coordinates written in hexadecimal format. After translation, they were found to correspond to points on a map of the Earth in Iran, Egypt, and southern Italy. It was there that artifacts similar in style and symbolism to the manuscript's illustrations were discovered at various times. This gave rise to a new theory. The book may not have been a single book, but part of a series linked through these coordinates, as if each point contained a piece of the same knowledge. At the end of 2024, scientists published an open report in which they cautiously stated, "The Voynich manuscript is not a cipher in the conventional sense. It is a symbolic language created to preserve knowledge that could not be expressed directly." After its publication, some researchers were criticized, but interest in the book revived. The manuscript is now seen as a possible bridge between the lost science of the Middle Ages and legends of an ancient civilization that possessed knowledge of the connections between the stars and the elements. Today, the manuscript is kept in the Yale University Library, under glass, where its pages are turned only by robotic arms. But after its partial decipherment, the same feeling reigns in its halls as it did 100 years ago, a sense that the text has a life of its own, only waiting for the moment when humanity is ready to fully understand it. And perhaps, when we finally decipher the final page, we will understand that the Voynich manuscript was not a message from the past, but a letter from the future, where someone already knew that we would one day learn to listen to the light written in words. New discovery in Longyu Caves. Hidden among the hills and rice fields of Zhejiang province lies one of the most mysterious structures on Earth, the Longyu Caves. They were discovered by accident in 1992, when a farmer, attempting to drain a small pond near his village, stumbled upon the entrance to a vast underground chamber. What was discovered underwater wasn't just a natural formation, but an entire complex of 20 large, perfectly carved caves interconnected by corridors. Since then, researchers from around the world have been puzzled by the question, who created them and why? No ancient chronicle mentions the construction of such a grandiose structure, and modern dating methods indicate that it is over 2,000 years old. But in late 2024, Chinese archaeologists made a discovery that brought renewed attention to the site. Using high-precision laser scanning and 3D modeling technology, Professor Li Wenjing's team discovered a hidden chamber behind one of the walls, previously thought to be a solid rock mass. When laser projection revealed an irregularly shaped cavity, careful drilling began in January 2025. Beneath a layer of rock less than a meter thick, a new cave opened up, smaller than the others, but no less mysterious. Inside, there were none of the usual vertical grooves that lined the walls of other chambers. Instead, the surface was polished to a mirror shine. The first thing that caught their eye was an unusual glow. When the researchers turned on their flashlights, the light reflected off the walls in a soft, silvery sheen, as if the stone were coated in a layer of crystals. Chemical analysis revealed the presence of microlayers of quartz and titanium oxide, substances that could only form at extreme temperatures. This suggested that some kind of thermal processing method, unusual for ancient cultures, was used to create the cave. Strange symbols were found on the walls, geometric patterns resembling a combination of triangles, circles, and lines intersecting at precise angles. They resemble neither Chinese characters nor any known script. Engineers noticed that when these patterns were plotted on a map of the complex, the lines connected into a perfect pattern, resembling a blueprint for an architectural system. Perhaps this was a code or construction plan left behind by the cave's creators. But the real sensation lay deeper. In the center of the new chamber was a stone pedestal about a meter high, and on it was something resembling a lidded vessel carved from a single monolith. The vessel's surface was covered with carved lines that, at a certain angle, formed the outline of a star. When they attempted to lift the lid, they found it was tightly sealed. After several hours of careful work, the scientists finally opened the vessel. Inside, there was no gold or artifacts, only a layer of a transparent, hardened substance resembling resin. Under a microscope, it appeared to be organic in origin, as if it were ancient resin preserving traces of pollen, spores, and microscopic insects. But the most astonishing thing is its age. Radiocarbon dating has shown that the resin is over 11,000 years old. This means it was enclosed in a vessel long before the First Chinese dynasty and even before the Neolithic period. How could such ancient organic matter end up in a cave that, according to the official version, is 2,000 years old? There's no answer. Some believe the caves were built in several stages, some of which date back to prehistoric times. Others hypothesize that this vessel is not a relic, but a time capsule left behind by representatives of a forgotten culture. There are even bolder theories. Some researchers believe the Longyu Caves may have been more than just a storage facility or temple, but part of a vast complex dedicated to stargazing. Calculations have shown that the angles between the main chambers align with the positions of the star Vega and the constellation Lyra in the sky over 10,000 years ago. This means the architecture could have been built in accordance with celestial landmarks, like an ancient celestial map carved in stone. Following the discovery of the new chamber, the Chinese government temporarily restricted access to Longyu, citing conservation needs. However, several photographs still leaked online. They reveal a shiny floor with mirror-like reflections and mysterious lines extending into the depths, as if the corridors continued further. Legends immediately arose around the discovery. Some claim the newly discovered cave is merely the entrance to a gigantic underground city hidden beneath the mountains. Others claim that an ancient energy source lies beneath Longyu, which once powered unknown mechanisms. Professor Li Wenjing said only one thing in an interview: "What we found doesn't fit into any known era. It's something that transcends time." Today, the Longyu Caves are once again capturing the world's attention. Scientists debate how ancient craftsmen could have created a complex of such scale without leaving a single trace of tools or a single written record. But perhaps the very silence that reigns in these halls is the answer. For looking at the perfectly polished walls, reflecting the torchlight, it seems as if the Longyu Caves are not just stone halls, but a message left by those who already knew that one day we would return to seek our origins. Unknown civilization beneath the Atacama Desert, in southern Peru and northern Chile, where the sky seems closer than the earth itself, lies the Atacama Desert. It is one of the driest places on the planet, where precipitation can go for decades. From the surface, it appears as if life has never been here. But beneath the layers of sand and salt, something is lurking that has changed scientists' understanding of the ancient history of South America. In the spring of 2023, a team of archaeologists from the University of Santiago began geophysical surveys near an old copper mine, where satellite images revealed strange geometric patterns. Initially, it was assumed that these were simply traces of mining operations left over from the Spanish colonial era. However, after the initial scans, it became clear that beneath the sand surface lay a system of tunnels and rectangular chambers, arranged in a precise pattern. When the first excavations began in September of that year, archaeologists uncovered the entrance to an underground gallery. It extended nearly 15 meters deep and was carved into solid rock resembling volcanic glass. The walls were perfectly smooth, and the ceiling was lined with rows of recesses resembling niches for lamps. But the most surprising thing was the structure itself. Each corridor connected to the next at a 90-degree angle, forming a network reminiscent of an urban layout. On the floor, researchers found the remains of pottery with designs never seen before. The symbols consisted of intertwined circles within a square, repeated with perfect precision. Similar designs were not found in the Inca, Moche, or Nazca cultures. Moreover, carbon dating has determined that the finds are approximately 8,000 years old, long before the emergence of the first known civilizations in the region. It was later discovered that some tunnels were lined with stone blocks, held together by an unknown mineral composition resembling cement. It proved incredibly strong, nearly indestructible even by acid. Researchers concluded that the builders possessed technologies that were simply impossible for their time. In December 2024, archaeologists discovered something resembling an altar in one of the lower halls. On it lay quartz crystals arranged in a spiral. When illuminated by lanterns, they began to shimmer as if reflecting invisible radiation. Geophysicists detected a weak electromagnetic field around the site, suggesting that the ancient inhabitants used the minerals not only as decoration, but also as a source of energy, or as part of a ritual involving light. The most puzzling discovery occurred when engineers conducted a magnetic scan deeper beneath the complex's foundations. At a depth of approximately 35 meters, the instruments detected a void approximately 40 meters in diameter. Judging by the signal reflections, this contained a perfectly rounded spherical cavity lined with a material of a different density than the surrounding rock. Some scientists cautiously speculated that this might be an ancient domed structure, perhaps a meeting place or storage facility. When news of this discovery became known, representatives from several international institutions traveled to the Atacama. However, access to the deep chamber was temporarily prohibited due to the high levels of radioactivity detected within the void. This gave rise to a host of rumors, from speculation about an ancient meteorite to theories about contact with extraterrestrial beings. but the official version remained the same. Before us are traces of an unknown early civilization that disappeared long before the Incas. Interestingly, local legends of the Atacama Desert have long spoken of the people beneath the sand, people who lived underground and wielded light capable of bringing stone to life. These tales were once considered fiction, but now that tunnels and halls have been discovered beneath the surface, the tales have taken on a new meaning. Perhaps the region's ancient inhabitants truly preserved the memories of those who lived here millennia ago. Today, excavations continue in the strictest secrecy. Scientists are publishing only limited data, but it is already clear that the discovered underground complex is unlike any known culture. Its builders possessed a mastery of mathematics, geometry, and materials science that was millennia ahead of their time. The Atacama Desert, where it once seemed nothing, has once again proven that the Earth's silence is deceptive. Each layer may conceal an entire chapter of human history, written not with pen, but in stone. And perhaps it is there, beneath the sand, that lies the answer to the question of how many civilizations inhabited the Earth before history learned to record its own traces. Tunnels under Stonehenge. On the plains of Wiltshire, where the evening sky turns copper and mist slowly creeps between ancient stones, stands one of humanity's most enigmatic structures, Stonehenge. Its stone arches, having withstood the winds of 5 millennia, have long been a symbol of Europe's undiscovered past. It was believed that after so many centuries, scientists already knew all about the secrets of this place. But the discovery in late 2023 revealed that Stonehenge conceals much more than meets the eye. A team of British archaeologists, together with geophysicists from the University of Birmingham, conducted a large-scale study of subsurface layers using deep-sea LiDAR and magnetic tomography technologies. The goal was to create a complete digital map of the Stonehenge area to understand what objects might have been buried underground. When the results of the first scan appeared on screen, the researchers couldn't believe their eyes. A complex system of tunnels and chambers stretching for several kilometers was discovered beneath the monument and its surroundings. These underground corridors formed a spiral-like pattern, spiraling toward the center where the stone circle itself was located. Each tunnel was uniform in width and curved smoothly, as if carved from a single plane. Calculations indicate that creating such a system would have required the removal of at least 50,000 tons of limestone. However, no trace of this stone quarrying has ever been found. This means that the builders either removed the earth in an unusual way, or used a technology unknown to us. As the ground-penetrating radars probed deeper, it became clear that some of the tunnels connected to previously unknown chambers located at various depths. In one of them, sensors detected metallic reflections uncharacteristic of natural minerals. A few weeks later, archaeologists secured permission for limited excavations and descended into one of the side galleries for the first time. Tool marks were preserved on the walls, not stone as one might expect, but thin ones, as if cutting the rock under high heat. The surfaces were so smooth that the light from the lanterns glided across them without leaving a glare. In one of the passages, a depression filled with sintered sand was discovered, as if intense heat had once occurred there, turning the soil into glass. Scientists have cautiously begun to speculate about the use of thermal processing, unattainable in the Neolithic. One of the central chambers contained fragments of ceramic vessels and several large stones with carved symbols, straight lines intersecting at precise angles. One of the patterns turned out to be a precise projection of the lunar cycles in the sky around 3000 BC. This confirmed the long-held theory that Stonehenge served not simply as a cult center, but as an ancient observatory, calculated with mathematical precision. But the most bizarre discovery occurred when researchers recorded a persistent low-frequency hum in one of the underground chambers. Initially, they assumed it was the sound of groundwater, but its frequency was too constant. When the hum was amplified with instruments, it was discovered that it coincided with the ground vibrations during the summer solstice. This meant that the underground tunnels could have been specifically constructed to amplify sound vibrations, turning the entire complex into a giant resonator. If this is true, then the builders of Stonehenge knew not only astronomy, but also acoustics. They understood how sound can interact with the earth and create energy waves. This theory explains why many visitors to Stonehenge have reported feeling a slight dizziness or vibration when standing in the center of the circle. Perhaps this isn't mysticism, but the residual effects of an ancient architectural mechanism. In December 2024, British authorities announced that the new finds required special protection, and some of the underground tunnels were refilled to prevent collapse. However, copies of the scans remained with international research teams, And some experts are convinced that Stonehenge conceals not just a network of passages, but an entire underground complex, possibly connected to other ancient British monuments, such as Avebury and Silbury Hill. If these sites are indeed connected, it means the British Isles had a sophisticated engineering culture with knowledge of geometry, sound, and the cycles of the heavenly bodies long before the advent of writing. Today, Stonehenge continues to hold its secrets. The stones still stand motionless, but beneath them, beneath meters of earth, lie tunnels that could have served as a link between earth and heaven. And perhaps it was there that ancient priests once caught the breath of the planets, transforming it into music that modern humans have long since forgotten how to hear. Giant structures beneath Antarctica, in the snow-white expanses of Antarctica, where eternal winds obliterate all traces of human presence, lies something long considered impossible. Beneath kilometers of ice, according to the latest geophysical data, lie structures whose outlines cannot be explained by natural processes. The scientific world was long hesitant to speak of this out loud, but by the end of 2024, the facts had become too obvious to ignore. Earlier this year, the IceVision ground-penetrating radar satellite detected anomalous formations at a depth of more than 3 kilometers beneath the eastern part of the continent. These included perfectly symmetrical domes, cylinders, and straight lines intersecting at a 90-degree angle. The size of these formations was astonishing. Some of the domes exceeded 100 meters in diameter, and the length of the linear structures reached a kilometer. At first, scientists from the European Polar Research Center assumed these were solidified lava flows or ancient glacial caves. But spectral analysis of the reflections revealed otherwise. The density of the material in these areas was higher than that of the surrounding ice and rock, indicating the presence of metallic elements. Then the first debate began. Some claimed these were fragments of an ancient meteorite, while others insisted they were man-made structures. In the summer of 2024, an international expedition was dispatched to the site of the anomaly. After weeks of drilling, the team reached a depth of 2,800 meters and encountered a layer of unusual ice, transparent as glass and perfectly smooth. Beneath it, instruments revealed a smooth surface reflecting radio waves with such intensity that it seemed as if metal were hidden beneath the ice. When a sampler was pulled up from a sampler, analysis revealed an unusual aluminum-based alloy, but with traces of rare minerals not found in the Earth's crust. The strangest discovery came during repeat scans. In the center of the structure, scientists detected a void, a huge hollow dome with radial corridors radiating outward from it. Zones of weak magnetic disturbances were observed around it, as if an energy source were located beneath the ice. These data were confirmed by satellites, which recorded heat spots, areas with temperatures several degrees above the regional average. Local legends of the indigenous tribes of Patagonia, passed down through generations, spoke of a land of white stone, where beings from the sky once lived, and where ice swallowed their cities. The scientific community had always considered this a myth, but recent discoveries have rekindled interest in these ancient tales. When the Concordia Research Station published the results of an independent scan in December, there was no doubt anomalous geometric structures, whose origins cannot be explained, do indeed exist beneath the Antarctic ice. They are arranged in a regular grid, reminiscent of ancient cities or technological bases. The largest of them is pyramid-shaped with a base 240 meters long. The pyramid beneath the ice became the center of heated debate. Some experts believed it was the result of natural erosion, while others pointed to the perfect symmetry of its faces and the precise alignment with the Earth's magnetic meridian. Moreover, calculations showed that if the pyramid's axis were extended, it would point directly to ancient Egypt, along the line connecting Giza with the South Pole. When information leaked into open sources, reports surfaced that part of the area around the pyramids was closed to visitors. Several governments denied any work was taking place, but satellite images revealed the presence of equipment and temporary structures. Officially, this could be attributed to scientific research, but the scale of the activity clearly went beyond the scope of routine geological projects. Some researchers have cautiously suggested that traces of a prehistoric civilization that existed long before the last ice age may have been preserved beneath Antarctica. If the continent was once in a warmer climate, its lands could have been inhabited. When the climate changed dramatically, the ice sheet sealed everything beneath itself, preserving the site like a giant time capsule. Today, all materials about Antarctic structures are classified, and further drilling has been suspended. but the very idea that traces of an ancient world could lie beneath the eternal ice haunts researchers. Perhaps one day, when the ice begins to retreat, humanity will see what lies deeper than history. And then Antarctica will cease to be just a cold desert, but will become evidence that not all civilizations began under the sun. Some were born beneath the ice. Mysterious artifacts from Easter Island. At the edge of the Pacific Ocean, where the endless blue expanse meets the southern winds, lies Easter Island, a place whose name has long been synonymous with mystery. Here, on a small strip of land scattered across thousands of kilometers of water, tower stone giants, the Moai. But, as has become clear in recent years, the island's mystery extends far beyond these giants. Deep within the earth, beneath a layer of volcanic ash, objects have been discovered that call into question everything we knew about its history. In early 2023, a team of archaeologists from the University of Santiago, together with Chilean researchers, conducted a ground-penetrating radar scan of the southeastern part of the island, near the village of Hangaroa. In the area where abandoned quarries had once stood, the radar unexpectedly detected a reflection from a dense object buried at a depth of about 3 meters. When the scientists began excavating, they encountered a layer of fused tuff, beneath which lay a stone slab bearing distinct symbols, unlike any known Rapa Nui Rongorongo character. The slab was slightly smaller than a human being and covered with carved lines forming spiral shapes. When illuminated from the side, the characters began to play with shadows, as if creating a sense of movement. It was later discovered that the angles of the cuts were so precise that they could not have been achieved with stone tools. When the fragments were examined microscopically in a laboratory, the edges of the letters were found to be melted, as if someone had used a tool heated to over 1,000 degrees Celsius. Several months later, another object was discovered in the same area, a cylinder of green stone, reminiscent of jade but much denser. Its surface was engraved with the outlines of constellations, among which scientists identified Orion and the Pleiades. Radiocarbon dating of organic particles found between cracks revealed an age of at least 4,000 years, twice as old as all known artifacts on the island. This discovery challenged all notions of Easter Island settlement, as humans officially arrived here no earlier than the first half of the second millennium CE. The third discovery attracted particular attention: a round stone with a smooth surface that, during magnetic measurements, revealed a weak but stable electromagnetic field. Researchers hypothesized that it contained minerals capable of interacting with the Earth's magnetic fluxes. This led to a bold hypothesis. Perhaps the ancient inhabitants used such stones in rituals related to navigation or energy. Rapa Nui elders, hearing of the discovery, recalled an ancient legend about stone hearts that hold the breath of the stars. However, everything really changed when geophysicists used LiDAR to survey the area at the foot of one of the Moai. They discovered a network of underground tunnels extending for tens of meters. In one of them, they found fragments of ceramics and pieces of uncorroded metal. Analysis revealed that the alloy contained nickel, copper, and an unknown element not found in natural ores in the region. Archaeologists have cautiously suggested that the island may conceal an ancient sanctuary built long before the emergence of the Rapa Nui culture. But some scholars have gone further, suggesting that the artifacts could be traces of a lost oceanic civilization that existed before the Great Flood mentioned in Polynesian legends. These myths tell of people of light who came from the sea, brought knowledge, and vanished as suddenly as they appeared. In late 2024, the Chilean government declared the island an archaeological protection zone and closed access to new excavations. However, several images leaked online showed stone slabs with symbols resembling Mayan writing. This sparked a new wave of debate. Could the ancient peoples of South America and Polynesia have interacted with each other long before the age of sail? Some researchers believe Easter Island was not just a settlement, but part of a network of ancient observatories connected across the ocean. Calculations have shown that the direction the Moai face coincides with a line leading to the coast of Peru and the Nazca Plateau, a site where giant geometric figures visible only from above were also left. Perhaps this was a unified system of reference points, created by a people with knowledge of the movement of the stars and the Earth's magnetic field. Today, Easter Island remains silent. The wind whispers between the stone giants, and scientists return again and again to the age-old question: who built all this, and why? Perhaps the artifacts beneath the island are not the remnants of a local culture, but traces of those who lived here long before us. And if so, then somewhere deep beneath layers of lava and ash, the history of a civilization the world knows nothing about still awaits its time. Traces of an ancient mega-civilization in the Amazon jungle. For a long time, the Amazon was considered a wild, impenetrable region where humans had never developed complex societies. Europeans who first explored these regions in the 16th century returned with tales of cities glittering with gold and streets lost in the verdant jungle, but science treated these stories with disbelief. It seemed impossible that large civilizations could have existed in such a humid and hostile environment. However, discoveries in recent years have definitively dispelled this belief. In early 2024, an international team of archaeologists from the universities of Bonn and São Paulo completed the largest ever mapping of the region using LiDAR, a technology that allows one to penetrate dense forests and reveal the terrain beneath the foliage. The results were stunning. Traces of cities, roads, terraces, and artificial canals were discovered across an area of over 50,000 square kilometers between the Madeira and Tapajós rivers. All of this lay beneath a layer of vegetation many meters thick, hidden for centuries. One of the researchers, Professor Mario Cunha, said the scan data looks as if someone carved a gigantic pattern into the earth. From above, it's clear that the cities are connected by perfectly straight roads, up to 30 meters wide. These roads stretch for tens of kilometers and form geometric shapes, squares, stars, circles. Each city had a central square and a system of canals that likely circulated water. But what was most striking was the scale. Some of the complexes are comparable in area to ancient Mesopotamian cities. Excavations at one site, named La Esperanza, revealed the remains of clay walls and the foundations of houses oriented toward the cardinal points. Under layers of earth, pottery fragments depicting stars and snakes, as well as unusual obsidian spearheads, were found. Radiocarbon dating of the layer has shown it to be over 4,000 years old. This means that even at that time, the Amazon was inhabited by people who had mastered agriculture, architecture, and possibly a calendar. Scientists have noticed a strange feature of the local soil, a dark, fertile soil known as terra preta. Found only in areas where settlements once existed, it is characterized by a high concentration of carbon and organic matter. Its origin was not explained by natural processes. It is now clear that it is an artificially created material, allowing the land to remain fertile for centuries. Such technology could not have been developed by chance. It required knowledge of chemistry and biology not expected of ancient tribes. A geoglyph over 300 meters in diameter, depicting a spiral-like shape with a dot at the center, discovered on one of the hills, attracted particular attention. When superimposed on a star map, the drawing was found to precisely align with the constellation of Fucus. This led researchers to speculate that the ancient inhabitants of the Amazon may have had a system of celestial observations and even used astronomy for their agricultural calendar. When geophysicists conducted a magnetic survey of the soil, they discovered that the lines of underground roads and squares were aligned with magnetic meridians, not true geographic meridians. This means the builders had knowledge of the Earth's magnetic fields. Coincidences of such magnitude could not have been random. Who were these people? Their culture vanished without a trace, leaving no written language, but their engineering solutions astound even modern specialists. By mid-2025, several more complexes were discovered underground. One of them contained dozens of stone platforms laid out in neat rows. Excavations revealed that each platform was oriented at an angle consistent with the direction of the Amazon River. Archaeologists believe these may have been the foundations of temples or observatories. Numerous animal bones, possibly sacrificed, were found around these structures. The most astonishing discovery was made at a site called Santo Corrado. There, in an underground cave, a massive stone was found engraved with spirals and lines reminiscent of a whirlpool. In the center of the design was a carved figure of a man with outstretched arms. Laser scanning revealed that the design was carved into the stone with microscopic precision. Under ultraviolet light, the lines glowed faintly, indicating the presence of phosphorus. The symbols were likely coated with some substance to make them glow in the dark. There are theories that this region of the Amazon was part of a vast mega-civilization connected to other ancient centers of South America. If the discovered geoglyphs are plotted on a map of the continent, their lines align with the direction leading to the Nazca Plateau, as well as the ruins of Tiwanaku. Perhaps the ancient builders knew of each other's existence and communicated through a system of signals or sacred routes. Some scholars have hypothesized that the Amazon was not simply a tribal habitat, but the center of a vast network uniting cultures across the continent. and that it was here, in the heart of South America, that the knowledge that later spread to the Andes, Peru, and Mexico was born. But along with the discoveries came difficulties. Local residents began reporting strange sounds emanating from the excavated areas at night. Geologists recorded faint vibrations underground, as if something were moving within the deep structures. Some researchers believed it was groundwater, others that the ancient tunnels connected to as-yet undiscovered chambers. Today, archaeologists are certain that the Amazon can no longer be considered merely a natural zone. It is a vast open-air archaeological museum where every hummock and root conceals a history older than all known civilizations of the New World. However, officially, expeditions are forced to suspend work due to the unpredictable climate and logistical difficulties. Despite this, the idea that the jungle holds the key to understanding ancient human history is increasingly being voiced in scientific circles. Perhaps it was here that the dispersal of peoples across South America, and perhaps even across the entire Earth, began. Professor Cunha concluded his report with words that were later quoted by publications around the world. "We've always searched for ancient civilizations among the rocks and sand, but it turns out that the greatest of them has been sleeping under the leaves all this time, waiting for us to learn to look through the greenery and see history, not just the forest." Thus, the Amazon, once considered a pristine wilderness, became a mirror of the past, reflecting how little we truly know about ourselves. And perhaps it is here, in the dense silence of the tropics, that humanity will first realize that the traces of its origins lead not to deserts and mountains, but to the heart of a green ocean, where trees grow atop ancient cities and time stands still, awaiting its awakening. The lost library of the Alexandria Temple, on the Mediterranean coast, where the sound of the waves merges with the eternal breath of the wind, stands a city once considered the heart of knowledge in the ancient world. Alexandria, the city founded by Alexander the Great, for centuries housed one of humanity's greatest wonders, a library where, according to legend, all the knowledge of the earth was stored. Its destruction became a symbol of the loss of human memory. But as recent discoveries have shown, the library may not have perished completely. Archaeologists now believe that part of it may be hidden underground in one of the city's ancient temples. In the spring of 2024, Egyptian archaeologists from Cairo University, together with Greek historians, began excavations beneath the ruins of the Serapeum Temple, a sanctuary dedicated to the god Serapis. According to ancient sources, it was here that some of the library's scrolls were hidden after the destruction of its main building. Until recently, the Serapeum remained closed due to high groundwater levels and unstable soil, but new technologies made it possible to scan the site without physical intervention. The results astonished even the most skeptical scientists. Beneath the sanctuary, a network of underground chambers was discovered, extending to a depth of over 30 meters. The chambers had vaulted ceilings, and the walls, according to LIDAR data, were lined with blocks of a different composition than the stone of the upper structures. This meant that the underground level was built in a different era, possibly long before the Hellenistic period. In one of the chambers, instruments detected traces of organic material, likely papyrus or parchment. This was an event of incredible significance for Egypt. Never before had such ancient texts been discovered in such a preserved state underground. When archaeologists descended into the first hall in July, they were dazzled by the glitter of the fine gold plating on the walls. The light from the lanterns reflected off the symbols engraved with astonishing precision. These were not mere decorations. Each line represented a sequence of Greek and Egyptian symbols arranged in a spiral. The scientists hypothesized that they were looking at an encrypted cataloging system created by the priests to hide the library's contents from conquerors. In the center of the hall was a sarcophagus-like granite box covered by a slab. When the slab was carefully lifted, a layer of fine sand was revealed, beneath which lay the charred remains of papyri. Despite their extensive deterioration, some fragments retained traces of ink. Analysis revealed that the ink contained not only carbon, but also silver particles, indicating a special writing technology designed to preserve it. Laser reconstruction made it possible to decipher individual words. Among them, the names of Herodotus, Anaxagoras, and Euclid. This confirmed that the library truly existed not as a myth, but as a center for the unification of Eastern and Western knowledge. The main discovery awaited in the depths of the second hall. Its walls were engraved with star charts precisely matching the celestial configuration of around 300 years BC. But at the bottom of the charts, researchers noticed strange inscriptions written in an incomprehensible alphabet. It turned out that beneath the Greek text lay an older layer, engraved in stone before the construction of the temple itself. Radiocarbon dating revealed an age of at least 5,000 years. This meant that an ancient sanctuary had already existed in the area where Alexandria was later built, possibly preserving knowledge even before the time of the pharaohs. In one corner of the hall was a stone disk covered in concentric lines and symbols reminiscent of mathematical formulas. Engineers who examined the disk discovered that the proportions of the lines corresponded to the golden ratio. Moreover, when transferred to a three-dimensional model, the design coincided with the geometry of the planet's motion around the sun. Scientists hypothesized that the disk may have served as an ancient instrument for calculating astronomical cycles, a kind of primitive computer. Soon after, access to the halls was temporarily closed. Egyptian authorities declared the area a national heritage site. However, some photographs and data leaked to scholarly circles. One of the images clearly shows a stone slab engraved with the phrase in Greek, "Knowledge does not perish, it only awaits new eyes." This inscription became a symbol of a new perspective on the Library of Alexandria. Historians now believe the library was not completely destroyed in the fire. A significant portion of the texts were likely copied in advance and hidden beneath the temples of Alexandria, where they were guarded by priests. Perhaps some of the scrolls were taken to the southern provinces of Egypt or even to the temples of Sinai. Legends of a second library circulated among Arab scholars as early as the Middle Ages, and now they have real confirmation. Archaeologists continue careful excavations, but the work is becoming more difficult. The water level is constantly rising, threatening to destroy the fragile finds. Therefore, specialists are using freezing equipment to stabilize the soil. In some places, traces of passages leading further underground have been discovered beneath the walls. Geophysicists believe the network of halls may extend hundreds of meters beneath the modern city. If this hypothesis is confirmed, the Library of Alexandria will prove to be not just a building, but an entire underground complex connected to the sea. According to legend, it was through these tunnels that the priests channeled water, symbolizing the flow of knowledge. And if part of this system has survived, then thousands of scrolls preserving the lost knowledge of the ancient world may still lie beneath the feet of Alexandria's inhabitants. Scientists are calling this discovery the archaeological wonder of the century. If even a portion of the texts can be deciphered, humanity will be able to regain its lost connection with the past. Among the discovered fragments, there are already mentions of schematics for ancient machines, texts on the properties of light, and formulas reminiscent of the fundamentals of geometric optics. This may indicate that ancient philosophers possessed much deeper scientific understanding than previously thought. In the evening, when the sun sinks below the sea horizon and the salty scent of the wind fills the narrow alleys of Alexandria, one can imagine that somewhere underground, in the silence of ancient halls, scrolls still lie, charred but not destroyed by time. They wait until man once again learns to seek truth not only in the sky but also underground. And perhaps one day, one of the explorers will open the final chamber and find they're not just ancient texts, but a reminder that knowledge is the only power that truly endures the ages. That stone circles underwater off the coast of Japan. Off the coast of Yonaguni Island, the westernmost of the Ryukyu Islands, where the Pacific Ocean waves collide with the underwater currents of the East China Sea, fishermen have long reported strange stone formations visible in the depths during high tides. They spoke of staircases, walls, and terraces seemingly carved from the seabed itself. For a long time, this was considered a myth, until divers discovered an underwater monument of striking geometry in the late 20th century. But only in recent years has it become clear that this is not an isolated structure, but part of a much larger network. In the spring of 2024, Japanese oceanographers from Osaka University conducted a repeat scan of the seafloor within a 20-kilometer radius of Yonaguni. State-of-the-art instruments detected dozens of circular and polygonal platforms arranged with near-perfect symmetry. Each platform ranged in diameter from 20 to 50 meters, and some were connected by narrow passages resembling roads. Furthermore, in several areas, the scientists discovered stone circles formed by massive slabs set vertically like the ancient megaliths of Stonehenge. Geologists initially assumed these were natural formations formed by currents and volcanic activity. However, structural analysis revealed signs of artificial processing. The surfaces of the stones were polished, and the corners were cut at right angles. Closer examination revealed that the slabs differed in composition from seafloor rocks, indicating they were transported from land. But the main mystery lay in their location. When plotted on a map, the circle's coordinates formed a pattern that matched the positions of stars in the Orion constellation. This alignment was so precise that researchers named the complex the Yonaguni Underwater Observatory. Perhaps the builders oriented their structures by the stars, using them as navigational markers before the area was submerged. The age of the structures has become a subject of heated debate. According to oceanographers, sea levels in the region rose by approximately 120 meters, approximately 12,000 years ago, after the end of the last ice age. This means the monuments could have been built before the catastrophic rise in sea level. If so, this would represent a civilization that existed long before Japan, China, and even the Sumerian world. In June 2025, divers discovered a cylindrical object made of solid basalt in one of the stone circles. It was set upright and resembled a column. Subtle markings were visible on its surface, parallel lines intersecting at points, forming a grid. Computer processing of the images revealed that the pattern followed the tidal current map of the region. This suggested that the ancient inhabitants may have used the circles as a system for monitoring water movement and possibly as a means of predicting storms. One of the halls, dubbed the Temple Beneath the Waves, proved particularly enigmatic. It consists of 7 gigantic platforms arranged in a cascade, each one 1.5 meters lower than the previous one. Rows of recesses, seemingly designed for torches or stone vessels, are visible on the walls of some levels. Underwater, traces of carved steps leading down to a rectangular hall completely filled with sand have been preserved. When engineers launched a miniature robot into the chamber, it transmitted an image of a vault adorned with spiral ornaments. The sand prevents precise dating, but the hall's dimensions, approximately 20 meters long and 8 meters high, suggest a colossal amount of labor on the part of its builders. Interestingly, similar circles have been found on other Ryukyu islands, including off the coast of Okinawa. Their shape and arrangement match the Yonaguni circles, as if they were part of a single system. Some researchers have hypothesized that the entire archipelago was once connected by land, where an unknown maritime civilization flourished. Its inhabitants may have possessed navigational and engineering skills that were lost after the global flood. Local legends speak of a land called Mu, a continent sunk in the Pacific Ocean, where people worshipped the sun and harnessed the power of stone. This legend was considered myth for centuries, but the discoveries at Yonaguni give it a new meaning. Even the shape of the platforms matches descriptions of Mu temples found in ancient Chinese chronicles. In August 2025, Japanese authorities declared the site an archaeological site, restricting access to tourists. However, independent divers continue to publish new images. Some show sunlight shining through the water and reflecting off the walls, creating the illusion of moving symbols. This has sparked speculation that the builders may have used this unique interplay of light and water for ritual purposes, transforming the ocean into a living mirror of the sky. Scholars have yet to reach a consensus. Some believe Yonaguni is an ancient temple or an astronomical calendar, while others believe it is the remains of a port built by a people who mastered seafaring long before the rise of the known civilizations of the East. But they all share one thing in common. These stone circles are too precise, too skillfully crafted, to be the work of nature. And when you stand on a boat above this place, where the sea surface seems silent and the depths endless, it's hard to shake the feeling that somewhere below, beneath the water, lies a city that hasn't perished, but simply waits to be seen again by the human eye. Perhaps Yonaguni is not the end, but the beginning of a story in which the ocean preserves the memory of a time when the boundary between land and sea didn't yet exist, and man already knew how to build eternal stone circles that reflect the sky even underwater. Rewritten dates of the Mayan civilization. When archaeologists first began deciphering the Mayan calendar, they believed they had fully understood their time system. A complex combination of cycles consisting of 20 and 13 numbers seemed to provide exhaustive evidence of how the ancient inhabitants of Central America measured the movements of the stars and the sun. However, recent discoveries have shown that everything we thought we knew about this civilization's chronology may be wrong. In the fall of 2024, a team of archaeologists from Mexico and the United States conducted excavations at the ancient city of Coba, hidden in the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula. In one of the ruined temples, they discovered a stone slab with inscriptions, partially hidden under a layer of limestone. After cleaning, it was revealed that it depicted not just a calendar circle, but a pattern of time cycles, different from all previously known examples. 3 rings were carved into the center of the slab, each representing a distinct count of days and years. The outer ring consisted of symbols corresponding to the solar cycle, but the inner ones belonged to a more ancient system, which counted years according to different rules. When the text was deciphered, the researchers were shocked. The slab indicated that the era, previously estimated to have begun in the 3rd century BCE, actually began nearly 1,000 years earlier. This meant that the Mayan civilization had existed and developed for much longer than previously thought. Moreover, the text mentioned events that coincided with catastrophes recorded in other parts of the world: volcanic eruptions, eclipses, and meteorite impacts. All of this connected the history of the Americas to previously unsuspected global processes. Soon after, in December, archaeologists from the University of Chiapas discovered another anomaly: a series of ceramic tablets covered in unusual symbols. Unlike classic Mayan hieroglyphs, these signs had a different style, more angular, without the traditional depictions of gods. When specialists conducted a computer analysis, it turned out that the language structure matched scripts found in Olmec sites, which predate the Maya by at least 2,000 years. This discovery led scientists to wonder, perhaps the Maya did not simply inherit the Olmec culture, but were its direct continuation, surviving global climate change and terrestrial cycles. At the same time, excavations were conducted in Guatemala at the ancient city of El Mirador. There, beneath layers of earth, a temple dedicated to the god of time was discovered. Its walls are carved with scenes of deities turning enormous stone wheels, symbolizing the passage of time. LIDAR scanning revealed that the orientation of the temple axis aligns with the positions of the Sun and Venus on certain dates. But upon recalculation, these dates were found to be inconsistent with the modern Mayan calendar. This meant that their counting system was changed later, perhaps during a time of civilizational crisis, when the old knowledge began to be forgotten. The key to the mystery came in the spring of 2025, when a vault containing a recently deciphered fragment of a codex discovered in the mid-20th century but deemed a forgery was opened at the National Museum of Mexico. After further analysis, the document was found to be genuine. It contained a reference to the Great Correction of Time, performed by priests to align celestial cycles with the altered positions of the stars. The phrase Great Correction proved key. Scientists have established that around the 8th century BCE, the Earth did indeed experience a series of powerful solar storms and, possibly, a minor shift in its rotational axis. This could have shifted the Mayas' astronomical observations, forcing them to rebuild their measurement system. Thus, the modern calendar, on which all our knowledge of the end of the era in 2012 is based, turned out to be a secondary version, created after this cosmic restructuring. This discovery has sparked a storm of debate. If the dates are indeed shifted, the entire chronology of Mesoamerican history requires revision. Monuments thought to have been built in the 6th century could have been erected 1,000 years earlier. This means that the Maya civilization itself did not disappear suddenly, but existed for much longer, possibly experiencing several cycles of rise and decline. Professor Alejandro Peralta, the expedition's leader, noted that some new monuments contain references to the first sun, an era when the sky was different. These descriptions are remarkably reminiscent of myths from other cultures: Indian, Sumerian, and Egyptian. Perhaps ancient civilizations actually recorded the same celestial event, observing it from different points on Earth. But the real sensation occurred when a group of astronomers superimposed the calendar records from Koba on modern star charts. It turned out that the planetary positions indicated in the text corresponded to the positions of celestial bodies observed approximately 11,000 years ago. This date is so ancient that it transcends all known history. A bold hypothesis arose. The Maya may have inherited their knowledge from a civilization that existed before the Ice Age, perhaps from those who survived the global catastrophe and passed on their knowledge to their descendants. Today, this data is being verified in international laboratories, but it is already clear that the Mayan calendar is more than just a count of days. It is a system that links the movement of the stars, the rhythm of the Earth, and human history. And perhaps it was not created by the Maya, but reconstructed by them from fragments left by someone much older. If this is true, then the myth of the fifth sun, an era when humanity will rise again from the ashes of previous worlds, may be more than just a legend. It may be a memory of real cycles, when the planet experienced destruction and rebirth, and knowledge was carried through the centuries, encoded in stones, ornaments, and symbols. Today, archaeologists cautiously speak of a new chronology of the Americas, and while the official dates have not yet been changed, a growing body of evidence suggests that the Mayan civilization was not the beginning, but merely one chapter in a greater history that began long before the first human footsteps sounded on the soil of Yucatan. And somewhere in these jungles, beneath layers of limestone, perhaps the true map of time still slumbers, drawn by those who saw the sun differently and remembered that the history of the world is far older than we can imagine. A mechanism found off the coast of Greece that turned out to be older than the Antikythera mechanism. At the bottom of the Aegean Sea, 20 kilometers off the coast of Kythera Island in early 2025, divers accidentally stumbled upon fragments of bronze gears buried beneath a layer of coral and silt. At first, everyone assumed it was just another artifact, similar to the famous Antikythera mechanism discovered in the previous century. But when the fragments were brought to the surface and examined, it became clear that this was a discovery capable of completely rewriting our understanding of the technological level of the ancient world. The recovered parts belong to a device similar in design to humanity's first mechanical computer, but significantly more complex in every respect. Its gears were not crudely hand-cut, but machined with astonishing precision. Under a microscope, traces of symmetrical cutting, as if machined, were visible. Some parts retained traces of gilding and engraved symbols reminiscent of ancient Greek text. The metal was resistant to corrosion, and the bronze structure contained a high content of tin and rare impurities, which, according to experts, may have been artificially added. When the artifact was subjected to radiocarbon and isotope analysis, the results stunned even the most cautious experts. The discovery was found to be more than 1,000 years older than the Antikythera mechanism, around 4000 BC, long before the classical era of ancient Greece. This date challenged all previous understandings of the development of engineering and science. At that time, according to conventional history, humanity was only just beginning to master bronze. Professor Nikos Marinidis, who led the study, stated that the device was likely used not only to calculate planetary motion, but also to record terrestrial and solar cycles. Computer reconstruction revealed that each gear is linked to the next through a system of proportions corresponding to Fibonacci numbers, a pattern discovered only in the Middle Ages. This meant that the mechanism's creators were aware of the harmonic relationships that govern nature. When the fragments of the mechanism were cleaned, images emerged on one of the plates, lines connecting dots corresponding to the positions of major planets. Among them was the orbit of Pluto, discovered only in the 20th century. Scientists assumed this could be a coincidence, but calculations showed that the trajectory matched the actual orbit by 98%. This discovery raised the question: how could the ancient craftsmen have known about the existence of planets invisible to the naked eye? The expedition soon found several more objects near the discovery site, fragments of bronze pipes, plates, and lead containers. One of them contained a thin layer of crystalline sediment resembling glass. Chemical analysis revealed it to be an alloy of silicon and magnesium created at temperatures above 1,400 degrees Celsius. Such a substance could not have formed naturally on the seafloor. This suggested that the device was housed in a protective casing and may have been used not only for astronomical calculations, but also for storing or transmitting energy. Some researchers cautiously hypothesized that the mechanism could have been part of a larger installation, a kind of celestial machine that used planetary motion as a numbering system. Traces of circular grooves were visible on the walls of the housing, likely used to rotate metal balls symbolizing celestial bodies. This principle was remarkably reminiscent of a planetarium, but one built thousands of years before such models appeared in Europe. Historians immediately recalled legends mentioning a master island that sank in the southern Aegean Sea. Ancient Greek texts mention a people who mastered the art of controlling the movement of the stars and created mechanisms that operated without fire or water. These legends have always been perceived as metaphors, but now they take on an ominous concreteness. When the device was scanned with a tomograph, remnants of microscopic quartz crystals embedded in the bronze axles were discovered. This sparked a flurry of speculation. Perhaps the ancients knew about the piezoelectric effect and used it to stabilize the rotation of gears. If so, this discovery was thousands of years ahead of its time. It soon became clear that the artifact could not have been the work of a single workshop. Metal analysis revealed traces of impurities from various regions of the Mediterranean, from Cyprus to North Africa. This means that the mechanism's creators possessed a supply chain and, possibly, a unified culture capable of exchanging knowledge across vast distances. However, something else proved most disturbing. An inscription partially erased by time was engraved on the bottom plate of the device. After restoring the text, experts translated it as "memory of light." What this means remains a mystery. It may be a philosophical concept, but some physicists involved in deciphering it believe it could have been a literal description of the mechanism's operating principle. If the mechanism did indeed detect light or magnetic fluctuations, it could have served as something like an ancient star signal recorder, a device that preserved data on celestial processes that occurred thousands of years ago. Today, the artifact is kept in the National Museum of Athens under heavy guard. Access is restricted, and research is conducted in complete secrecy. However, it is already known that ground-penetrating radar has revealed the presence of several more metal objects at a depth of 30 meters near the discovery site. It is possible that an entire laboratory lies there, sunken in a catastrophe, traces of which have vanished into the mists of time. Scientists are cautiously discussing the possibility of an unknown prehistoric civilization in the Mediterranean, predecessors of the Greeks, possessing knowledge that later formed the foundation of ancient science. If this is true, then the Antikythera mechanism, considered the pinnacle of ancient engineering, was merely a shadow of what existed before. And perhaps one day, when new expeditions reach the depths where this mysterious city of engineers lies, humanity will once again hear the echo of the gears that turned 4,000 years ago. The echo of a mind that understood the stars better than we do today. Perhaps the most striking thing about all these discoveries is not the ancient artifacts or mysterious cities, but the sense that the past seems to come alive before us, breaking the conventional boundaries of time. Beneath layers of earth, beneath thick layers of water and ice, humanity is finding not just traces of lost civilizations, but mirrors of ourselves. And the deeper we look into this reflection, the clearer it becomes. History is not a finished book, but an endless handwritten scroll that we are only just beginning to read.